Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Emily Essner, the CMO of Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue has recently spun off its digital and e-commerce presence, supported by an investment of $500 million from Insight Partners. Today, we're going to talk about the customer strategy behind the decision. We're going to talk about Emily Essner's vision for the future of customer experience and where retail is headed. Please enjoy Emily Essner. Hey, Emily, welcome to the Modern Customer, all the way from the most modern city in the country, New York. How are you today?
I'm good. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. I love fashion. I love shopping. So you and I are going to have such a good time today talking about all the amazing changes over at Saks Fifth Avenue. I think it would be helpful for our audience that don't know you to just hear. I know you worked at Saks, then you left, then you went back. In the last few years, if you could just share what you've been working on leading the CMO practice there.
Absolutely. So I've been at Saks Fifth Avenue in some form for the last 11 years, with various different roles, to your point, and various sort of different structures. But over the last few years, been leading the marketing function here at Saks Fifth Avenue, and most recently, over the last 18 months ago or so, we recently spun the digital business out. So we're operating a digital business and a stores-based business, but all under one customer-facing brand, Saks Fifth Avenue. And the marketing team supports both businesses, which is super exciting. And it's really, really helped us unlock growth.
So I am so glad you brought that up because I find this so fascinating. This is exactly what I wanted to ask you about because for me, it's so interesting as big retailers that had such a long legacy are trying to pivot to meet the new customer where he or she is. And this is quite a complicated and loaded topic, but let's just start from the basics because I really want to focus in on this decision today. So why did you decide to spin out Saks Fifth Avenue online with that $500 million investment? So what was the reasoning behind it?
We saw an opportunity, I think, along a couple different levels. One was around focus. So, an omnichannel business, to your point, it is the way, most of our competitors run their business, but it is very complicated. And I think the reality is that the stores business is an incredibly important part of our business. It's the way a lot of our customers experience the brand. And it's a meaningful source of revenue. But because of the, sort of sheer size and complexity, while I think everyone intellectually knows that, our customer is increasingly digitally oriented, and that's where a lot of our growth is going to come from, sometimes the reality of the complexity and the sort of pull towards the stores is such that it can not be as easy to focus on the future and to focus on the digital business as it could be. So one has been really very much around focus. And then the second piece has been around investment. We had a hypothesis for a number of years before that investment that we had a lot of upside, certainly from a marketing perspective, but from a customer experience perspective, technology perspective as well. And spinning off the business has really allowed us to invest in the digital business and allowed us to, for example, invest significantly in marketing, where we've been able to see fantastic returns, fantastic customer acquisition, and it's really been able to be, a huge part of how we've been able to grow the business significantly over the last couple of years.
So I know there's probably quite a long story to how you came to that decision of spinning out the digital business. To me, I just can't imagine it wasn't one with a little bit of frustration that you're trying to build an e-commerce presence. So many of these retail stores just aren't set up to basically go through these digital transformations. It's really, really hard to depart from those legacy ways of running the business? Was it just we're so frustrated, we have to start anew, we have to like divorce these different programs, or what was the general feeling and mindset there?
It was really around the opportunity that we saw in the digital business and the opportunity to focus and the opportunity to invest in it. To your point, certainly there are, legacy practices, and being able to start fresh is certainly helpful to be able to move forward. But for us, it really was about growth, and being able to say, sort of confidently and all at once, we believe the future growth vehicle for the business is going to be coming, from the digital business, and we're going to invest to support it as such. That said, it is incredibly important that our customers view the businesses as one, that the customer experience continues to be seamless, and the stores continue to play a really meaningful part in that experience.
So, Emily, for our audience, would you be comfortable just talking about the difference when it is a separate business? The customer has one view of Saks, but the way you're running it is different. Could you just give us a behind the scenes look at how does it look from your view?
Yeah. Well, so it is, while it is, two separate businesses, the way we have structured, because it is one customer facing business, the way we have structured certain functions, so marketing, merchandising, namely, are actually one team that supports the market. So my team, the marketing team, supports the marketing of the Saks Fifth Avenue brand, regardless of where our customer chooses to interact. So a lot of the marketing, the vast majority, certainly of the media that we run is digital, but we all know that a large portion of that media is actually driving to the stores. But really, because it is one customer facing brand, there's sort of I believe there's no other way to organize certain functions other than having one centralized function. The idea of having two different teams running brand advertising, competing with each other is obviously something that doesn't make sense for so many reasons. And so it's one customer, it's one marketing team, you're really supporting the brand, and then encouraging the customer to shop with us wherever makes sense for them.
Okay, so it sounds like there isn't a huge change in, you said, so like the stores and the digital, they're not competing. Is that right?
The stores and digital are certainly not competing from a customer perspective. Our goal is to encourage our customer to shop with us wherever she wants to. So we have, a host of cross-channel or omni-channel services, whether that's buy online, pick up in store, returns in store, being able to have something altered in a store, that are really meaningful differentiators versus our digital pure play competitors, but that really create, that holistic omni-channel experience. So we think we've been able to sort of figure out the best of both worlds, being able to invest in our business the way a digital pure play is able to, while also being able to have, that holistic stores and digital experience that so many of our customers expect.
So for retailers like Saks, it is challenging to compete when there's just so many different websites out there to buy clothes, to buy makeup, to buy all these things. What do you see as you look toward the future of e-commerce and the brand, like from an experiential perspective? What are some of the things that you are investing in to stand out and differentiate?
One thing we've been very focused on, it actually came from the pandemic, and was a little bit of a happy accident, but now is something that's a meaningful part of our strategy, is live commerce. So you can go on our website and you can experience multiple live commerce events every week. We recently, actually earlier this week, hosted an event with Elton John. And the idea of these events or these live commerce experiences is that it really gives our customers a one-on-one interaction with a luminary from the fashion world, from the lifestyle world, really allows them to interact one-on-one, have questions answered, engage, and it helps drive brand loyalty. And it will help drive, and it drives top of line sales as well.
Okay, I love that. That's so cool. I can imagine. I told you I used to live in New York City, like going and doing that experience would be amazing. What about bringing an experience like that to the masses? Because obviously only a select small few could go to an Elton John thing, which would be amazing. But what about how you engage the rest of digital customers in an experiential way? Or what are the things you're planning to do to differentiate?
So those events are open to everybody. So you simply have to go to our website, sex.com/events, and you can access both the events that are live streaming that day, as well as any event that was previously recorded. So you get to have, that one-on-one experience regardless, and that's open to everyone. We do host in-person events that are, that really run the gamut. Some are much more exclusive. Some are, have a broader reach. But we certainly view the digital channel as a way to reach so many customers, and really it's up to them to determine the events that they are most interested in engaging with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that you said it was digital. Well, that makes sense. And I love it because it's exactly what we're talking about, an experience around the product. So maybe you hear Elton John talk about how he decides what to wear when he's on tour or how he designs his jackets. I love that. Um,
Yeah.
as far as beyond experience from the marketing perspective, because now there's so much blending with like the customer service and marketing and personalization and merchandising, everything. It's just a really exciting time to be in retail. I'd be curious to hear, just you said you've been at Saks quite a long time. You've been in marketing quite a long time. Now that we're with this digital customer in a way that we've never seen them, how has your role changed as we're facing this new world?
I think my role has changed, sort of to your point on, as digital becomes, such an important part, and not just for us, for I think for retail in general, but as digital becomes, so much the growth channel, data becomes more and more central. And so I think when I look back, 5, 7 years ago, a little bit earlier in my career in marketing, data was much less important. Data, martech are, really critical for me to be able to get my job done, for my team to be able to get their jobs done. I think we're very lucky because we have been, sort of a little bit ahead of the curve on this. And we have, for example, we call customer DNA, which is 250 plus touch points, a holistic model that we use to guide personalization in, so many of our touch points. But really staying ahead of the curve on data is something that is, that's challenging, requires investment, requires a lot of focus, and I think is something that is, only going to become more important.
Absolutely. So customer data is a huge game changer. How do you ensure that you can gain insights from the data, that you can trust the data, and then really use it to change your CMO strategy?
Sure, I think it's some is certainly around, ensuring that we have sort of the right teams in place who are really able to mine the data, in a way that makes sense. The second piece, and this is arguably more important, is making sure that we understand what we're trying to do, being hypothesis driven. I think sometimes there can be a feeling of there's just so much data available, it can be overwhelming, and I think it can sometimes, almost be too much. And so our team takes a very hypothesis driven approach. We have been very focused on understanding, we're very focused on lifetime value of our customers, and we have been very focused over the last, say, 12 months, understanding what drives a customer's lifetime value, both from what drives it up, what's going to harm it, and then what are the actions that we can take to be able to improve it. And so that's both understanding what are the sort of customers who we can acquire who outright are going to be high LTV customers, as well as what are the actions that we can take throughout a customer's journey with us to encourage them to become higher LTV.
Yeah. So customer lifetime value is something that a lot of folks in customer experience are really interested in. It's sort of, to me, a bit of a scary metric because it's hard. It's really hard to calculate and do. Do you have any advice, since you have been able to use this metric successfully? Do you have any advice for other people listening and watching to the podcast? Like, what advice do you have for them if they want to be using customer lifetime value?
I think it is understanding that no one metric alone is going to be a determinant. And LTV for us is very guiding, but it is only one of, of a few metrics that we use. The other is to understand that it's to understand how you're going to use it. Where are the places where it's really going to make sense, and where are the places where it isn't going to make sense? But I think having a holistic measurement strategy is really important. But LTV for us certainly is one of the most important ones.
What do you think, as a CMO, Emily, makes you different or unique? Like, are there any strategies that you use that you've just seen other people haven't really caught on to yet that you could teach our audience about? You could just pick even one.
Sure. I mean, I think I have had probably a unique journey into the world of marketing. I started my career as an investment banker. I was a management consultant at McKinsey, and I joined Saks from McKinsey, where I spent some time at Saks and then at Hudson's Bay Company after they acquired Saks Fifth Avenue in the strategy team. And so come to this area with a fair bit of strategy experience and without having grown up in the marketing function. And so I think what that means is I take a little bit more probably of a strategic lens than I might have if I had had a different path. And I think that means that perhaps some of the sort of confines that one might view marketing as having, I probably don't have. I really do view it, as so much of the driver of our business, and encourage my teams to really view our roles as being really critical business drivers.
So you came to Saks. Initially, you were an investment banker. You're doing business, you're doing strategy. Now you find yourself a marketer. You're basically building the entire communication and relationship building strategy for this retailer. You probably are very unique to other CMOs. Now we have customer experience as a big part of the equation, and digital. Financially, since you are a banker at heart or in your past life, I mean, how do you calculate the ROI of doing these investments in digital customer experience?
When I look at, sort of the way we look at return now versus the way that we looked at return a few years ago, they're very different. And they're not just different in the methodology, but they are certainly different around the time frame of return. And I would encourage, as many of your listeners as possible to really try to take a longer view on the return. I think for our customer who is, she is not shopping with us every day, we would love that, but the reality is that's not where we play. And so for us, we need to take a much longer view to understand the value of a customer, the value of an investment that we make, and really have more patience. The other piece, sort of related to that, is thinking about the brand. Now, brand is always going to be hard to measure, and we've tried in many different ways. And there's, a few approaches that we have put together where we feel good about how we understand, where our brand is performing and where we have opportunities. But I think sometimes for more analytically minded teams, CMOs, our CFO partners, I think sometimes the brand can be a hard one to quantify because it just is. But I think beginning to recognize that, appreciate that, and then move past it and say it is so incredibly important and we have to protect our investment in it, is something I would encourage. But also encourage as we think about an economic climate that's a little bit more dynamic than we have been in.
So when you, Emily, say the brand for our audience, maybe they're not as familiar, like what does that mean to you?
Well, the Saks Fifth Avenue brand, we really stand for iconic. We are iconic. We've been around nearly 100 years, and we're unbelievably well known. And there's, a sort of a stature that we have that we think is really fundamental to the brand. We are synonymous with luxury. when we talk to customers, prospective customers, existing customers, it is the first thing that we hear. It is the biggest in the world, the word cloud. We certainly stand for fashion authority, something we've really leaned into over the last few years, not just luxury, but fashion and authority, being able to, to really be able to give customers a sense of, where the opportunities are, in their wardrobe. And then finally around inspiring, I think so much of the merchandise that we sell comes with a lifestyle sort of inherent. So being able to inspire our customers to be able to, sort of envision themselves in that is so much a part of our brand.
So much a part of shopping today is that personalization. I mean, you see it. I'm really into shopping, I told you. So like when I go to an e-commerce website and I see, oh, you like this shirt? Here's the pants, the purse, the shoes that go with it. And that's almost like a personal stylist through an AI. Is this the future of shopping? Is this just the surface? Are we going to get even more of this personalization?
Absolutely. Personalization is, and I think it's this way in luxury. I actually think it's this way in retail. Personalization at some level is table stakes. To your point, there are so many opportunities to build it further. So we have a very advanced personalization program that lives in our email, lives in our paid media, where we're using that customer DNA model that we've built, and we're powering about 50 different triggered email programs, which are all based off of your purchase behavior, your browse behavior, other things that we know about you, where we're recommending you products, we're alerting you that a product is back in stock, a product that is like a product that you've liked is back in stock, etc. But that we are, to your point, just scratching the surface. There's so much more that we can do. We can integrate. We have a team of digital stylists who we're really excited about, and we think there's a lot more opportunity thinking about how we could integrate them into the overall shopping experience, thinking about what personalization truly looks like on site, especially in the app, where it's going to make, I think, even more sense. And so there is a ton more to come here. And I think it is all around doing it in a way that in the end, serves what a customer is looking for.
How does that change your relationship with your merchandisers, with the brands that you sell? Like, for example, if your AI recommends one brand over another, like perhaps these business partners that are the brands that you sell, maybe they want to be involved, have a say, they want to be referenced first. How does that work? And who gets basically kicked up to the top?
We take a very customer first approach. It is the end answer to that tension. In the end, we are all going to do better when we give our customer exactly what she's looking for, regardless of what, our preference at Saks is, or what our brand partners' preferences are. Because the reality is they have a lot of choices. And so if we're not serving them exactly what they're looking for, they're simply going to go to another website, to another retailer. And so it doesn't serve any of us in the end if we're not incredibly customer centric.
I love that. I think that's a perfect note to wrap our formal interview on, but I do want to dive into some fun rapid fire questions so my audience can get to know you a little bit, Emily. Are you game?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. First question, Emily, what does your morning routine look like?
So I have two little kids. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 9-month-old. So my routine, I think, starts when the baby wakes up, which hopefully is no earlier than 6:30. But getting him ready, getting my daughter ready, and then my nanny arrives, and she takes over, and then I get ready, and then off to the office.
So you are one of these superhero women that are doing everything. We have so much to talk about. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, so we'll have to talk about that later. All right, question number 2. Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped to get you to where you are?
I don't know if it's a leadership hack, but I am very curious. I'm very interested in a lot of things. And I think over the course of my career, I think that has enabled me to understand parts of the business in a deeper way or a more integrated way than I might have otherwise, which I think then sort of unlocks opportunities. You can see how things connect in a way that you're able to drive value and to get people on board a little faster.
So now that I know that you have a 9-month-old, I'm not sure some of these questions are as relevant to you, but I'll still try. Number 3, what do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
Well, once the children are in bed, let's see. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love to read The New Yorker. I've always find that to be an escape, an intellectual, and really allows me to sort of take myself out of my day to day and get immersed into any number of interesting topics.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
As I said, I had joined the firm. I had joined Saks rather from McKinsey, and so I still actually refer back to a lot of the sort of classic leadership work that McKinsey has done, and even more recent work. They tend to be pretty relevant, pretty timely, easy to digest.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
I think I've got a pretty good. I think I've got a pretty good life. I think I try to have a lot of gratitude and a lot of recognition of my blessings and of how lucky I've been. And so I don't know. I think there's puts and there's takes, but I'll take what I have now.
What is one mental strategy for managing hard days?
I once read somewhere that it was a reminder that you have survived all of your bad days. And when I have a bad day, I always think about that. It gets easier with experience, and the more bad days you have, the more you know you can survive more of them. But I think having that recognition that you've done this before and you're going to be able to do it again is really helpful. And then gratitude is helpful. Being able to have some perspective that as bad as whatever has happened is, and it probably is bad, it's not going to be the end of the world, and there's a lot that's really good.
All right, couple more. What is your favorite type of vacation?
I'd love to go to cities, explore a new place, check out restaurants, go to a cafe, go to stores, go see some art. That would be a delight.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
My grandmother passed away when she was 97 a few years ago. She got to meet my 4.5-year-old daughter, but didn't get to meet my son. So if I could have lunch with her and have her meet my son, that would be a dream.
And lastly, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
One of the podcasts that I listen to when I am relaxing, I listen to Scott Galloway, and he always signs off with "Life's so rich," and that really resonates with me. I do think life is so rich.
Well, Emily, this has been so fun. I have so many more questions for you, so you'll have to come back maybe next year when your baby is almost 2, and we could talk about the terrible twos together because I have a 2-year-old. Anyway, it's been so fun having you on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Of course, it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.